Live. I'm Ashley and I'm here with Bella. And today we're going to talk about sacred containers. Today happens to be the full snow moon in Leo, in the 29th gate, the moon is, and the sun is in the 30th gate. We wanted to talk about sacred containers because it's been something that has been showing up for us in our business and in our lives, and the importance of being aware of these containers. How do you make them sacred? Pluto is in gate 60, which can be seen as these sacred containers as well. This is limitation, realism, and justice. And so this whole year, the 2 months that we've been in it, we've been looking at our containers and really allowing them to evolve and transform, and the integrity of the containers that we keep with our coaching clients as well. And what we've noticed is that the more intentional we are with these containers, the more amazing things that happen inside of it. And when we have these containers and separations between things, there's not mixing and merging of energy where things get messy and mucky. You're able to have the potency of that container work to its highest potential and capability, because it's not mixing with anything else. And since we are in the age of Aquarius, and we do have a lot of people working from home, staying at home because they're not going outside or whatnot because of the pandemic, and age of Aquarius is bringing in a lot of the online relationships and stuff like that. So Bella was mentioning before that it's even harder to be consciously aware of when you're exiting a container, because it's like not like you're leaving a physical building, you're just shutting off your Zoom or getting off your computer. So sacred containers is the topic for today for What's Alive. And I would love to bring you in, Bella, and see what you have to say about these sacred containers.
Yeah, for me, all the work that we're doing is in sacred containers. And what I've seen these years where we have done things on Zoom, we have spoken about it many times. We do something that is a process of a group field, and there is some kind of transmutation, activation, clearing, whatever it is that we do through your work. When we get to know ourselves more and we come more into who we are, the whole work with human design and gene keys and all the modalities that we're using, what I've seen is that often we turn it on, either we have a call right after, because that's what you can do on Zoom. You don't have to take your car and drive somewhere or take the bus or do anything. So either we have a call right after, and you just have to snap out from maybe having something left, like right brained and creative, to something left brain where you need to speak with a lawyer, or you need to speak with like something that is with not at all in the same frequency. Or what I also see happen is that you go to the kitchen and you eat something because you're like, okay, I need to shift the energy, I need to ground, and then you do that. And for me, part of the true work is lost. Like when we're speaking about sacred containers, the way they were done before with the temples and that kind of sacred work, you have a ceremony, you have a ritual, and then you have to reset the space. And for me, when I've been in temples, the most beautiful moment for me is in the morning. Maybe you get up at 5 a.m. and you are not only taking away the candles and the things from the night before, you're also changing the things, like putting flowers, and everything is clean again. And you're setting the space for a new day, for a new evolution, for a new growth, from new coming together. And I feel like more and more, that's what feels important in the age of Aquarius. Yes, like you're saying, Ashley, we're coming in, we're doing more things with technology, but what's your hygiene when it comes to your Zoom world? And I believe that everything, we might not say sacred containers of everything, but each and every call you go into is a certain container that is worthy of your full attention when you're there. And that's what I say, when you put your full attention, we're in the full moon of devotion, the 29 and then the 30, this is how much are you putting out yourself, how much light are you bringing into a container? Because when you bring that with you and have that devotion and commitment, actually the containers change and become sacred containers, just because that's the attitude, that's the energy that you brought into it.
Mm-hmm. And the way that looks for anybody that is wanting to do that is you're going to have transitions. Bella has the second gene key, and so she's really good at orienting. And what I've learned over time is that I'm not as quick orienting from space to space to space. So I find myself bringing energy with me into another container, and I'll have to like ground and reset, or I'm like shocked with the energy of the container that I need to orient again. We had a client last night. I came into the container. I was like, this is big energy. Let's all ground together because I need it to be able to do my best work too. So being able to first set the intention before you begin anything new. It's always, what is the intention here? Who am I showing up as here? And then leaving whatever is over there. Because if you bring it with you, it's going to convolute the energy. That some things are meant to be brought in, and it helps because there's a resonance there. And it's like, I want to come along with you because there's a resonance here. But oftentimes, like, you're going to need to see yourself walking through like a waterfall of white light. And it's like everything that is not meant to come into this container needs to leave. And like what Bella said about presence, it's so important for you to treat every container. And that could be like your mom calls and you need to be present with that person. Or maybe you're sitting in for a family movie night and you're with all your kids, and your husband or your wife or whatnot. Or maybe you're getting into a room with a client. And what's important is that you have your complete presence on them. You don't have your phone in front of you. You are not thinking about your to-do list. You're not allowing yourself to wander. You're bringing your presence to the present, and you're being fully with that person. And that's what creates the sacred container, because people can feel when your energy is fragmented, and your aura will speak for you. Like me and Bella have generator auras. So essentially we're kind of holding a lot of things at once. But if you're a projector in particular, your presence is of the utmost importance, because your tractor beam goes like this. It's like on that person. If you start thinking about something else or looking at your phone, people can feel that your eyes aren't on them anymore, that your energy is not present with them, because you can only go from one thing to one thing to one thing. And my husband's a projector. I know this very well. I'm like, put down the phone, like talk, like when he's in his masculine and he's holding space and he's listening to me intently, I can tell the moment his mind goes somewhere else. And I'm like, why am I even saying this? I don't need to say, like, you're not listening to me. But he's been so good at developing this presence, and presence, the 20 is actually his Chiron, is one of the woundings he's working through. But for everybody in particular, intention is super important. Presence is super important. And also this return to self after the container is done, after there's some kind of closure there. And Bella said, like, eating, some people go into the kitchen to eat something. If I'm not tidying my space, like I look like an OCD person after I'm done with a call or something, I'm like moving things around. It's almost like I have to reset my space to the way it was before, because it just throws me off, because I can feel the energy of things. Or I run into the kitchen and I eat something and I'm like, I know that I'm not super hungry, even though I'm quad left. I just feel like I know that I'm grounding, and oftentimes it's not great food. So if I can sit and be present with myself and tidy my desk and return to myself and send the client or the person I'm with's energy back to them through source, like here, send it to source, send it back to them, like allow that stuff to move and go back, I'm able to reset. And then I don't have to go in and like eat to ground with junky food. And what that's actually doing is just numbing me to the fact, like it's lowering my frequency to numb me to the fact that I'm carrying someone else's energy. And then that energy explodes somewhere else because it wants to leave, but it's almost like, I don't know what to do with it. Let me eat crappy food. It's not even good food. It's like Doritos or bread. It's usually carbs. I'm like, let me eat some carbs. And I've been noticing myself over time. I'm like, I am not resetting when I'm done. I'm like rushing to the kitchen to cook dinner, and I'm like eating crap to not feel the stuff, but you're not really moving it. Bella, what do you do to reset? Because you have a whole situation that you do.
I am thirst in my PHS. So I always, like you're going to see, I always have things to drink everywhere, and I always go and get something new to drink, and like structured water. So that's like that's my to do when I'm kind of still working. It's the water. And I think that from a lot of the ceremonies I've done, the water is the holy water, it's the sacred water in the middle of the whole ayahuasca ceremony or whatever, that space. So that's something that I go to all the time, but sometimes that's absolutely not enough. And you know how intense I can be. So even if it's just 4 minutes of like drumming and me closing the door, and sometimes like closing the curtains and just be in the shake of that. And then I actually know, and I, especially the shaking, because I think that that's the movement of the cells somehow. That's what it feels, or at least it's affecting the cells or influencing the cells. And then I feel like I come back to my it's almost like the same thing as we do structure water in different ways. The way that with a shake, I feel like my cells are restructuring with my blueprint again, and I'm not carrying another blueprint. So that's,
you're bringing your rhythm in, it's like instead of attuning to somebody else's rhythm or what you have Bella has the 13 too. She's like super sensitive to other people. She hears everything that's said and not said. So when she is in sacred container, she's hearing everything. And oftentimes it can be uncomfortable because you're taking that in and processing it in a way. And if it's not spoken about, you're still feeling it.
And that's with you and me too, like having the boundary when a container has to close, and having I guess the ability or the process, like having that ability to close the container, even if there is something that's happening. Like, how can we go from one container to another? Because often processes can go on for very long if we allow them, but to close them in a way that's safe, so that the person that we are with or the people where we can continue to process. And so we get a moment to breathe out whatever is there. And like you're saying, to reset. So it's important. It's not always best to just go to the last minute and then run to the next thing.
No.
But really, having the reverence and the respect for the work we're doing, and making sure that it's safe and that those containers are not flowing into each other, but there is a stop between them. And one more thing that I wanted to say that I have noticed is that the work that we do with Unlock Your Design with bigger groups, like our membership, especially like that thing where people come in and out, it tends to be a very kind of light and excited and enthusiastic energy, and fast and ping pong. And it's because it's aliveness that we are sharing. And I feel a lot of that 30 that the sun is in right now. And then I think when we are doing longer immersions with people, we're bringing in part of also that going down, going deep, going to the shadow, transmuting. But it's still, of course, a container with a lot of people. And what I've seen lately when we are working with one people, it is that it's starting to slow down. And it's not so much about with the charts and going fast, but it's actually listening to what's behind. And that's also why it's so important when you come into a container and you need to listen to the conflict, with your 6. I need to listen to what isn't said with my 13. Mm-hmm. And that also requires that we are in neutrality when we come in, so that we are not in autopilot in this enthusiasm that our 16 often is, allowing us to have, because we feel energetic when we have that. So the sacred work is also to slow down and to listen to what you can't hear on the surface.
Mm-hmm. And it's better for you to postpone, to cancel certain things if you are on an emotional wave, if you're thrown up, if your life kind of like shifted, because you putting it to the side or pushing it down to show up for a client is also you role modeling that it's okay to push it down. We have to. And I think that it's important for us to be able to pivot, because life is fluid and dynamic. And sometimes it's hard to go within the masculine structure of things. So to know when you need to tell your client or the person you're meeting with, or maybe you have a lunch date, be like, hey, I need some time to process. It's not to numb out and to avoid. It's to, I do need more time to process this. My coach messaged me today. She's like, I'm going to need 15 minutes because I'm really, really booked today. And I want to make sure that I have time to get a drink of water, to feed myself, to do all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, totally. It's fine if it's like, if you need to nourish yourself and nurture yourself before coming into our container. And that's the important thing. You have to be in a state of overflow if you're showing up in a space to serve. If you're being served, bring your stuff to the table because the space is being held for you. But if you're showing up to serve, you have to make sure that you're in overflow.
So the question here is like, with every encounter, what is the hygiene that you have in your life? So when you show up for every encounter, you can show up with the most of you, with the best part of you. That would be an inquiry. And that's what this 29 in the full moon is asking. Are you devoted to every encounter? Are you showing up as your best? Do you have the hygiene in your life to show up for every container, every encounter from that best place of what you can bring to the space?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you want to play around with that during this full moon, you have an opportunity to release, to create your own sacred containers for yourself, create a ceremony for yourself, witness yourself, be there for yourself, have a connection to, your higher self, God, the universe, whatever you want to bring into that space, cultivate that space for you. And I would say too, if you're curious about any of the containers we have a few spots for one-on-one or actually it's 2-on-1, me and Bella and you. So if you're feeling called to that, reach out to us and we'll have a conversation about that. Or if you want to join the inner circle, we'd love to have you there so that you can kind of feel that energy. But all of our containers are very, very different. So feel into maybe what you're called to and how you want to experience us, because we are open and ready for you. So thanks for joining us for this episode of What's Alive, and we will see you soon.